everyone, welcome to HW News English. I am Shubham Chohan. The Maharashtra and Jharkhand results are in. In Maharashtra, of course, the big news, Mahayuti has swept the Maharashtra Assembly elections. As we speak, the Vikas Agadi being routed, reduced to about 50 seats, as the Mahayuti is all set to form the next government in the state of Maharashtra. In Jharkhand, meanwhile, it's the India Alliance that seems to be in pole position to form the government. A result, particularly Maharashtra, that many people didn't expect. But to help us declutter and understand what these results, how did we come to this, what do these results mean, is someone who really understands politics and the nitty-gritties of politics very well. Dr. Kartikeya Batra joins us. Dr. Batra, good evening. Nice to see you. And for starters, let me start with Maharashtra. Help me understand what has really happened. 200 plus for the Mahayuti, something that no one really saw coming. What are your thoughts on the result in Maharashtra?
Yeah, no, so that's a very fair question. And, just look at the vote shares also. In terms of the vote shares, the Mahayuti is touching 50%, almost, right? Whereas if you add up the three opposition parties, they are touching 35%, which means there's a yawning 12 to 13 percentage point gap between the two formations. And once the data comes in, the final data, we probably analyze it a little more in a little more detail. But see, here's what I think has happened. I have traveled through Jharkhand, so I can talk more authoritatively on Jharkhand. But here's what I think has happened in Maharashtra. Once the Lok Sabha elections were over, the results came in favor of the Vikas Agadi in terms of seats, and the gap was some point less than 1 percentage point, the difference between the two alliances, right? In terms of assembly constituency leads, the MVA was at 150, around 150, and the Mahayuti was around 125, right? After that, I think the MVA somehow got complacent, that this is theirs for the taking now. And so the Mahayuti, on the other hand, led by the BJP, they're always in election mode. They, on the other hand, course corrected. So whenever we used to talk of Marathwada, we used to say the Jarange Patil factor, the Maratha reservations factor, all that has gone up, it seems. Right? We used to talk about agricultural distress, rural distress, all that seems to have gone up. So here's what the Mahayuti did. They ensured that the caste combinations were in play. They ensured that the Maratha OBC sort of equations were taken care of. The RSS stepped back again. In places like Vidarbha, they have a big role to play in Dalit outreach, for instance. These welfare schemes were launched that cemented Eknath Shinde's position as a CM and gave them probably a lot of brownie points among female voters and probably amongst the poor. So they did all this. What was the Mahavikas Agadi doing at this point? They were bickering over seats, CM-ship. And did you hear any narrative from the Mahavikas Agadi apart from just saying that there is Gaddari and that we will come and this Sarkar is going? They thought this is theirs for the taking. And that is the thing, that in modern day electioneering, the BJP is such a brutal force to reckon with, that 3-4 months is a very long time. And they were able to capitalize on these 3-4 months, and they were able to ensure that the MVA did not even get a whiff or even a shot at par in the state. This is preliminary, but of course, when we analyze the data in more detail, we'll understand what is exactly transpired.
Right. You spoke about the complacency factor after the Lok Sabha elections. Do you think the complacency placed with the Ladki Bahin Yojana, it was just these two that really decided which way, because this majority is something that Maharashtra hasn't seen at least in the last 4 decades. So is it what I'm trying to get to is, does it look like, again, preliminary, prima facie, does it look like a anti-MVA vote, or does it look like a pro-Yuti vote? Because when I visited the ground, I spoke to voters, it did not look to me as this will be a 200 plus elections. So what is your reading? What is your assessment of what we have seen?
I wasn't on the ground, so you know more than I do, but it seems an anti-vote cannot be this overwhelming.
Right.
What were they anti? The MVA was not in power. It was the Mahayuti that was in power. So what were they protesting, the voters? In my opinion, it is a combination of welfareism, good election management, the BJP making sure that the alliance partners play their roles well, and complacency on the other side.
Right.
And this is what I can understand at this point in time. I think it is still a bit early to get into the micro details. A lot will come out eventually when we do the splits for whether Marathwada, North Maharashtra, how have the ST seats voted, how have the ST seats voted, what are the margins on some of the seats. But given the yawning gap, a 12 to 13 percentage point gap between the two formations, I don't see how this is an anti-vote. Uh,
Right.
I think that the MBA thought that with the Lok Sabha results, it was done and dusted, whereas the Lok Sabha result was essentially the door opening for them, but they had to still kick it open for themselves. It was an opening. They thought that the door had
Right.
already opened, but the BJP came back with its alliance partners. Imagine Ajit Pawar, who we thought will be the weakest link, has scored not only more than Sharad Pawar. So Ajit Pawar's party right now, if I'm not wrong, is at 20, is at 41. That is more than the combined strength of the Congress and the Sharad Pawar NCP. So
Absolutely.
something has gone right for the entire alliance, whether it's the female vote, whether it's making sure that the caste combinations were in place, or whether it's making sure that they poached the right candidates, whether it's ensuring vote transfer, etc., etc. Everything that we said went right for the MVA in the Lok Sabha election seems to have gone right for the Mahayuti in this election.
Absolutely. In fact,
Yeah,
even yeah.
one more thing I'll add. I think this is something that we should give credit to the BJP for.
Yes.
They probably realized that Prime Minister Modi is not pulling in the votes anymore. So they reduced his exposure. You see him in the last few days, he's not even in the country.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of nimbleness that the BJP has in its sort of the way it's structured as an election machinery. And I think those are the kinds of things that the Congress and other opposition parties will have to adapt to. Something that the JMM did really well in Jharkhand.
Absolutely. And let's then come to Jharkhand. I saw that you traveled to some constituencies of Jharkhand. Help us away from the whole chaos and drama around Maharashtra. Help us, take us through Jharkhand. Take us through your travels, what you saw,
Yeah.
and what we are seeing today, Dr. Batra.
Honestly, Jharkhand, I could see it coming. I did not predict because I did not want to predict. Just from an election perspective, the JMM looked very solid on the ground. I mean, it's a party that recognizes itself with Jharkhand, and Jharkhand recognizes it with JMM, with itself with JMM, because the party fought for the state's existence. So the party's symbol is deeply entrenched in the tribal belts of the state. That's roughly 26% of the population, right? So that plus the minorities, they add up to roughly 40% of the state. So JMM Congress alliance has a good hold on 40% of the votes. Then you add the welfare schemes that were rolled out, and you have a lethal combination. See, contrary to what happened with the MBA, the JMM, in fact, after the Lok Sabha results, after Hemant Soren came back, and probably this is where they got a fillip, because for them, the re-entry of Hemant Soren became another event. Whereas
Yes.
the MBA got complacent, Hemant Soren's re-entry became an event for them. So what they did was they removed Champai Soren, got in Hemant Soren. Champai Soren joined the BJP. Fine. But then the government did not stop. The government rolled out certain welfare schemes whose merits and demerits we can discuss. I'm not a big fan of freebies, but it is what it is. And see what it has led to. And I was privy to some of the conversations that JMM was having during my travels in Jharkhand. And you have to understand how micro they were going in terms of their preparations, in terms of responding to the BJP's maneuvers. That's the kind of hunger you need to beat the BJP at its game. The BJP was trying to do the following. It was strong in the general seat, so it thought that it will retain its dominance there. In the tribal areas, there are two tribal belts, the Santhal belt, the Kolhan belt. The southern Kolhan belt, what they did was they acquired some high-profile candidates. Geeta Koda, Champai Soren's son, Arjun Munda's wife was fighting, Raghubar Das's daughter-in-law was fighting, the giant killer of 2019, Saryu Rai, was fighting from the JDU symbol. Their hope was that, having these candidates in the fray will result in some seats from Kolhan where they drew a blank last time. It hasn't happened. Apart from a couple of seats, they've not won anything. Similarly, in Santhal, the northeast part of Jharkhand, they launched Himanta Biswa Sarma, who essentially brought up this issue of Bangladeshi immigrants. The JMM completely neutralized that. A, because of its entrenched, as I said, the recognition of its symbol, and B, the welfare schemes. Because for a tribal person, unless you are yourself facing that issue, something that's happening far away will only concern you if other things are not distracting you.
Right.
Whereas the JMM essentially launched all these schemes and they distracted the voter by saying, forget about those things. Let's first take care of your bread and butter issues. And not only did that consolidate their tribal vote, it also consolidated the non-tribal vote, which was visible during my travels. I met a bunch of Yadav women who are traditionally BJP supporters in Jharkhand, and they said, "भैया इस बार तो हम दे आए हैं JMM को, क्योंकि वो हमको पैसा दिए." So, if that had an impact in Jharkhand, my sense was it would have a similar impact in Maharashtra. My
Fair.
only confusion was that given Maharashtra's different socioeconomic profile than Jharkhand, would it have this big an impact? Clearly, it seems to have had that big an impact. But Jharkhand is an example of how regional parties micromanage an election with limited funds, I must add, was able to deliver the results that it's huge in terms of the number of seats. Although I must add, I came with a sobering realization from Jharkhand that for us from a distance elections are interesting, etc. But for a lot of the people on the ground, they have just become monotonous because they feel that they don't get anything, whether it's this party or that party. So I will not call it a wave, tsunami, etc. because I've seen the despondency on the ground amongst all kinds of voters. That there's lack of economic opportunities, inflation is high, there's water problems, there's problems of other outsiders taking our job opportunities, etc., etc. So all that is there, which is why I won't call it a huge sweep or a wave. It is a very well fought election from the JMM side, is what I would say, and they've duly won.
Right. The Ladki Bahin bit and the freebies debate. In fact, if in my interaction with women voters in Maharashtra, yes, it did click. Any woman I asked about Ladki Bahin ki paise mile, there used to be a smile to begin with, and then they used to say yes, and then they used to say that bhai ne diye, bhai effectively meaning Eknath Shinde. So they associated that with him. But at the same time, I also met a section of women voters who said that, look, you're giving us $1,500, that's fine, that's empowering. But at the same time, what about inflation? So that really, yes, go ahead.
That's a very good point. And this is what I discovered in Jharkhand. Maybe we can reconcile our findings from the field, right?
Yeah.
There are three kinds of voters amongst women also. Okay? One is committed to one side, one is committed to the other side, and then one is the swing voter in between. The voter who's anyway committed to the government will say, oh, yeah, I got the money, thank you, it's a wonderful government. The voter who is not committed to the government, but is committed to the other side, will accept the money, but will still find reasons to defend their choice that they won't vote for the government. And they might say inflation hai, or they might say that you want to buy my vote with 1,000 rupees, or they would say that you did not do anything for 4 years and now you want to just come and give us without take our vote. Those are the two extremes, and those are the ones who we usually meet. They're the more vocal ones. Then there is this silent mass of women in between who will not speak up until the day they vote. They will not speak up. They are the most difficult voters to tap into when you're in the field. Because they will, as you said, they'll have a smile, because they will not want to reveal their preference even in front of their families. Because what if the family voted one way and they vote the other way? They'll get stuck. You will to leave. So that is the kind of voter that this kind of transfer swings. Very difficult to capture. Fortunately, in the field in Jharkhand, I was able to capture a few samples over from that category and who revealed to me that this bar we have switched.
Achha.
Imagine a woman who is anyway not at the top of the hierarchy in her family. Of course, in front of you, she'll say what her husband wants to hear or her mother-in-law wants to hear. Right? But but bottom of her heart, she's thinking that this 1500 rupees has made me more autonomous. मेरा झिकझिक खत्म हो गया है. Somebody put it very beautifully the other day. 1500 rupees for somebody working out of a slum in these houses means एक घर कम में काम करना है. महीने का 1500.
Absolutely.
That is a lot. So,
Absolutely.
having not gone to Maharashtra, I can't hypothesize more, but from Jharkhand, I can tell you, I found these two kinds of women. One, who were happy. Second, who had taken the money but were still defending that they will not support the JMM. But there was this very silent and big mass of women in between who probably did, a section of which did get sort of influenced by this, but who did not reveal their preferences.
Yes, I think that silent bit you mentioned, that is something that is very difficult to tap, and rightly so, because now when you pointed that out, I am in my mind going back to my travels to sort of gauge that. And clearly, if Ladki Bahin, the effect that it was expected to have, if it has, and it is that perhaps that swing section that is taken care of the Mahayuti's prospect. But then, Dr. Batra, that brings me to the question: are state elections in India really becoming unpredictable by the day? We saw that in Haryana when a lot of people just said, "Ki this is one-side Congress," and then it turns. In Maharashtra, it was said it's going to be a tough, tightly fought contest, and there you see the Mahayuti running away. Or when you visit the field, when you speak, do you think there's sort of a shield where the voter is actually not revealing their preferences? They want to keep it inside themselves, and then when they go and press the button, that is when you know where they've actually gone. Is that
So,
the case? Do you agree?
possibly. See, I've been to Haryana and Jharkhand, not to Maharashtra. Let me speak about Haryana and Jharkhand. I think Jharkhand was visible if you did the right kind of study in the right areas and visited the right places and spoke to the right mix of people. Jharkhand was giving you signals that there was not a lot of anger against Hemant Soren. Plus, there was no excitement about the BJP. There was no love. There was no excitement about Hemant Soren also. But these factors swung it for him. Okay. When you went to Haryana, you could feel a palpable increase in support for the Congress. And by the way, you may not see it in the number of seats, my friend, but in Haryana, the Congress has gained 11 percentage point votes. That is not trivial. Haryana Congress defeated itself. Haryana
Yeah.
Congress, I can count at least 4 or 5 seats which we knew the Congress had gifted to the BJP, and eventually they lost those seats. Now add those 4 or 5 seats to their 37 and remove those from the BJP. It becomes 41, 44.
41, 44. Yes.
There were other seats which they lost because of mismanagement. So Haryana, in terms of vote share, the voter was saying it out loud. Ki, bhaiya, we want. Some were saying we want Congress, some were saying we don't want BJP. Because by default the Congress is there, we will vote for them. And that is visible in the vote share. You did not convert it into seats for reasons that only you know. Some of them were self-sabotaging and some of them were clearly just lack of preparedness or overconfidence. So I don't think the Haryana voter can be like in South Haryana, wherever I went, they said, "Hum to BJP ko vote karenge," and they voted for the BJP because in South Haryana the Yadav population dominates. So I don't think the voter hid anything in Haryana. It's just that the Congress didn't want to win. Or some people in the Congress didn't want to win. Okay?
Right.
Now, Maharashtra I did not go to. Maharashtra you went to. If you can say that, forget about the seats. Okay? Forget about the seats. Seats is a different question altogether. Let's look at the vote shares. Did you get a sense that people who had last time voted Congress or NCP or even in the Lok Sabha were switching to the Mahayuti this time? If you saw that happening, then the voter has spoken even in Maharashtra.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, I don't know because I wasn't on the field. But I can tell you, Jharkhand and Haryana, people were telling that it's just that, do you want to listen to them? Do you want to listen to the right people?
Yeah.
The biggest thing that we do is, the biggest problem in the way we conduct our field studies qualitatively is that we go to the most convenient places. Ek chai ka dukan, ek main road.
Yeah.
Mass voter does not reside there. No, the mass voter को ढूंढने के लिए आपको गांव में जाना पड़ेगा. आपको जंगल के, झारखंड में we had to travel into jungles actually, literally. I mean, I'm not over exaggerating. That is where you will find कि blocks of votes are going one way. The moment you
Right.
see that, this is where the base is coming from. Okay.
Right.
Now, Maharashtra again, I won't know, but you know,
Right.
seems like only a couple of one exit poll got the swing
One
right.
exit poll got it right. Yes.
Yeah, but that exit poll got Haryana horribly wrong. So,
Yes.
see, probably they would have gotten Haryana right also because it seems that the Haryana, the Congress self-damaged itself.
Yeah.
So this, I
You're right.
went to Jharkhand with a very clear mandate. I won't make any predictions this time. I just came back with
Mhm.
a very good understanding of how the election is playing out. And in my understanding, it's kind of in the direction that I had expected it to be. What is interesting is that all three states have gone to the incumbent again. Haryana,
Yes.
Jharkhand, Maharashtra have gone back to the incumbent. Four elections after the Lok Sabha, two to India, two to NDA. But in
Yes.
the India alliance, the Congress is the underperformer. It should have
Right.
won Haryana. It should have done better in Maharashtra. It should have done better in Jammu region, also in Jammu and Kashmir, but it did not. In Jharkhand, it's done relatively well. Large credit goes to the JMM, but also Congress must have done some things well. But I think Congress should now will have to now rethink whether the Lok Sabha success was a flash in the pan, you know, and whether it's back to being
Absolutely.
normal in terms of being beaten by the BJP.
Absolutely. I think one final question on Jharkhand. The whole incident with Hemant Soren, where he went behind bars, the whole when Champai Soren came in. Um, in Maharashtra, for example, when the split had just taken place, there were a lot of talks of sympathy factor for Uddhav Thackeray, sympathy for Sharad Pawar. Did you see that once Hemant Soren came out of jail, he became CM again? Did that sympathy word just hover around the minds of the voter, or were the issues anything but a sympathy factor in your travels in Jharkhand, Dr. Batra?
Sympathy wala Lok Sabha mein cash ho gaya tha, I think, right? And then Hemant Soren not only comes back but also reasserts himself as the chief minister. And then Champai
Yes.
Soren goes to the BJP. All this is happening. Let me tell you, if the JMM had not taken these policy decisions, this result may not have gone the way it has.
Oh, okay.
So you have to innovate, you have to come up with a new message every election. Sympathy Wave worked for the JMM in the Lok Sabha election. They knew it. And they worked on something new before this assembly election. They launched Kalpana Soren before the Lok Sabha. They further made her a part of the mainstream. Plus,
Yes.
they added these schemes to their arsenal that what will we talk about when we go out there. So that is how the JMM cracked the code in Jharkhand.
Very interesting. In fact, now that you're sharing your experiences, sort of drawing parallels with Maharashtra, the need to innovate, the new need to come up with something new in every election is something that really is important. Dr. Batra, when you look at both these results, and you pointed out that as well, that the incumbents have won the last three elections. Where does it place the Congress and the BJP right now? After the Lok Sabha, it was all the Congress has sort of resurrected. They have gained grounds in some of the states at the cost of the BJP. The BJP was down in Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. What is your sense now? What I think six odd months after Lok Sabha, four state elections. What is your larger sense as we come to the year end and the last two assembly elections this year, Dr. Batra?
I think the Haryana loss will hurt a lot. There was an election to be won. There was a government to be made. There was a chief minister to be installed. You just said we don't want to do it. देखो महाराष्ट्र everybody was caught off guard. In Maharashtra ऐसा नहीं कि Congress is everybody is underperformed ना. NCP Sharad Pawar, SS UBT, everybody is gone now. So secular decline. In fact, in Maharashtra, I think Congress will still survive. But what happens to Aditya Thackeray now? What happens to Supriya Sule? What happens to Sharad Pawar sahab? What happens
Yes.
to Uddhav Thackeray? Does the NCP merge back with the Congress? The Sharad Pawar faction? We don't know all these things, right? In fact, I was
Mm.
talking to somebody this morning. I was like, what if this becomes a Congress versus the rest situation now in Maharashtra? So
Yeah.
Maharashtra is a tsunami. Everybody has been hit by. Congress may their performance in Jharkhand is satisfactory, but Haryana is probably the biggest sore point this year for them. They should have won
Right.
that state. They definitely should have won that state. At this point, I think the BJP will reassert itself. But what will be interesting to see is it an RSS led BJP that reasserts itself, or is it a Modi led BJP that reasserts itself? Because look at the two elections, okay? The place where the RSS people were doing the work, Maharashtra, they won handsomely. The state where Amit Shah's man Hemanta Biswa Sarma was leading the campaign, they've lost the election. So those are internal dynamics that we don't know. But definitely this puts BJP in a much stronger position. If not for Jharkhand, I would have also said that they may now start breaking parties in the parliament. It might still happen.
Right.
Might still happen. For example, I don't know what happens to the 8 MPs that the Sharad Pawar NCP faction has in the parliament now.
Yes.
Do
Yes.
they stay intact? What happens to the 9 MPs that the SSUBT has in the parliament? Do they stay
UBTS.
intact? Or do they cross over? So we don't know answers to these questions. So definitely the BJP has a lot to be happy about as the year ends. And we are now off. We just have one Delhi election before the next big election in Bihar next winter. But otherwise, I think the BJP will definitely be ending the year on a high after the setback of the summer.
Right. BJP will be ending the year on a high. Dr. Batra, thank you so much for taking out the time. It was lovely to see you after quite some time and to hear your analysis. And we'll be waiting for your more parshalas as the details of different results come out. Thank you so much, Dr. Batra.
Thank you, boss. Thank you.
Thank you.